Uh, Very good evening. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. Very much clear, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Patta, for giving yet another opportunity to share my experience and knowledge here. I'm Professor of Surgery, Dr. Rajgopal Shree from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. Uh, this is the favorite quote which I put yesterday also. The talk is dedicated to the great teachers and the students who have inspired me. I have put the same picture yesterday. Yesterday, some people might not have been there. Just to keep you informed, we talked about anterior triangle yesterday, and today we'll be concentrating on the posterior triangle. And obviously, it is the sternomastoid which is anteriorly here, and there's a sternomastoid, and trapezius, mastoid above, and clavicle below. So these are some of the simple questions which they ask you. I think you should be ready with that. Is it okay? Right. Now, again, yesterday I reminded you when the question is asked about the swellings, cystic swellings classification, very often you people miss. So make it a point to by heart this classification of the cystic swelling, because this is a very commonly asked question. So if you are not come yesterday, just make a note of it and be ready. So there can be no substitute for detailed appraisal of the history and clinical examination. So for the just to sake of quick benefit, some of the important signs, you know that what we are going to do. Lipoma means you know that slip sign you will have. That's just being you can see here, this is a case of a sebaceous cyst with the sign of pitting there, also called as molding. And this I would just like to show you that sorry, it's going jumping, doesn't matter. We'll come to the other one. That's a sign of compressibility. Yesterday I have spoken about it. Without any force it comes back, and this is the pulsations. So these are some of the basic things you should know, whether you have got anterior swelling, posterior swelling, axilla or anywhere, slip sign, pulsations, molding or whatever that's indentation, and of course I mentioned about the compressibility. History, no difference. Usual progress, pain, fever, reduction, everything. As and when we get the case, we will have more about it. Yeah, this is the, again, for the benefit of people who are not come, we are discuss about this. You know, the classical branchial cyst. You not only the diagnosis, you should know to explain that. Then you have got this carotid body tumor there, and that's a carotid body tumor, metastasis. I mentioned about the schwannoma of the vagus nerve, cold abscess, submandibular gland, and again schwannoma of the on the right side. So more importantly, presentation, and why do you say the diagnosis, and of course the differential diagnosis. So now with this background, we'll move on to posterior triangle. I think one S is extra there, please excuse me. Remember, it's no way great difference here, but as I in this right side, you can see in this yellow box, posterior is the most common site of a neuroma in the neck. Is the most common site of a pulsatile swelling, most common site of a lymphatic cyst, and it's also the most common site of a lymph nodal metastasis. Is the most common site of a lymphoma of the neck. The most common site also of a fibromatosis in the neck. No doubt, we generally don't expect postgraduates to give a diagnosis of fibromatosis in the neck. However, a situation of a unusual, uncommon situation may come. If the examiner asks you a hard fixed swelling, fibromatosis, again the posterior triangle is the site. Of course, is the main area of the Virchow's node also. So with this in background, we will move on to some of the common cystic swelling. So I don't have to say that. They are diagnosed by fluctuation test. You know that most important test, which we have discussed yesterday, based on which you say this is cystic swelling. And when it comes to the posterior triangle, we don't have much there. Just keep it in mind, these four. As I told you, lot of lymphatic tissue, lot of vascular tissue, cold abscess, lipoma. In the neck, posterior triangle is one of the common sites of a lipoma. So hemangioma all of you know how to make a diagnosis. Don't say capillary and all. When it comes to the spaces, you will get only it's the cavernous tissue, okay, not capillary. And this swelling in this area can extend to the axilla, also to the mediastinum. Hemangiomas are also called as hematomas. Basically, it's a malformation. There could be a low flow status here, low flow status, where no thrill. One of the common mistakes done, hemangioma means thrill. No, hemangioma, low flow, most of them, they do not have any thrill. Compressibility is present. Yesterday I showed you, when you press it for some time, it becomes lesser, and after some time it comes back without a counter force. Then only you call it as compressibility. Again, there is no transillumination. Large ones require some sclerotherapy followed by excision. Again, as I told you, differential diagnosis, because there is no transillumination in hemangioma, you should give swellings which do not give rise to transillumination. As well, it can be other diagnosis, but since it's a compressibility is there, you would like to consider hemangioma. I just want to bring to the notice of this picture. If you see this girl, young girl, it's about 22 or so. See, you can see one swelling there, but you see that's also a swelling there. Just look at this picture of the specimen which we have excised. See that? I have brought this here just to keep, hello? Just to bring you a notice that these lymphangiomas will have multiple pockets. You know, when they have multiple pockets, that is where you feel, you know, there is some amount of compressibility, etc. So this is the way when you press in one segment somewhere there, you know, feel like, you know, it is displacing, but slowly comes back. So this is lymphangioma, and one of the brilliantly transilluminant swelling is lymphangioma. So that is another child. It's common in the children. You know where you call it as cystic hygroma. It's also called as hydrocele of the neck. It comes out nicely. So one of the commonly asked question, does lymphangioma transform into malignancy? Like we have neurofibroma, neurofibrosarcoma, lipoma, liposarcoma. Lymphangioma do not turn into lymphangiosarcoma. Post-mastectomy lymphedema, that's a different issue, which can turn into sarcoma. Next important swelling in the posterior triangle is a cold abscess. Obviously, we mean to say this tuberculosis, short duration, evening raise of temperature may or may not be there, little bit of emaciation or a weight loss, again a fluctuant swelling, transillumination negative, non-tender, compressibility absent. You have to carefully examine for other notes there. As I mentioned yesterday, it's always a loco-regional examination. You find one or two notes above, your diagnosis is more or less clear. So cold abscess diagnosis is based on history of tuberculosis may or may not be there, but fever, loss of weight, loss of appetite, all sums up a diagnosis of a cold abscess. I just brought you, these are the pictures. Look at carefully. This is actually the behind the sternomastoid here, occupying both anterior and posterior triangle. Here is a case. You can see it's in the posterior triangle. In fact, posterior triangle is the common site of a cold abscess. You can see here also again a posterior triangle. I just brought this to show you. These are all the short cases for you. This is diagnosed by lymph nodal swelling with or without matting, may give an area of softening, which is an area of cold abscess. One area is very small, that means it may have to do a Paget's test, which I mentioned yesterday. Now, if you see this swelling, posterior triangle here, large swelling. Now look at this. Look at this swelling here. Hello. Look at this swelling here. There is a almost the swelling is going in for a sinus formation, and you have large sinuses here. So these are the various stages of tuberculous lymphadenitis. I mentioned to you yesterday, please remember to examine cervical spine in all cases of, this is the important thing message here, in all cases of TB, cold abscess or tuberculous lymphadenitis, whatever given to you, remember to examine cold abscess, examination of the cervical spine, especially in cold abscess, because I have told you yesterday, you see that TB cervical spine, if it anti-ruptures, where all it can give rise to problems, see mainly lower cervical abscess. It can be behind the carotid sheath also, and it can go along the spinal canal, travel along the anterior primary divisions, and can become subcutaneous swelling. So please remember this chart, tuberculosis of the cervical spine and manifestation as a cold abscess. I mentioned to you lipoma, one of the sites in the neck is a posterior triangle. It's very easy, anybody can give a diagnosis, soft and lobular structure, well encapsulated. One other diagnosis or differentiation is a neurilemoma. And always remember, whenever you have a soft fluctuant swelling, before you incise, before you do a true cut biopsy or a needle, see that it is not vascular, because you can give rise to unnecessarily bleeding. Now we'll talk about the solid swellings here in the posterior triangle. We have mainly the neural tumors here, you can see here. Benign, you know how to make a diagnosis of benign tumor, we'll see that. Then sarcoma. Then the solid swellings are again tuberculosis, lymphoma, metastasis. After about another 10-15 minutes later, just to bring your attention, I am discussing more about this case. Most common short case for you, and students find it difficult. I want one of you to volunteer for this so-called the metastasis or secondaries in the neck of occult primary. This is the very commonly asked short case for you. So please get ready for this occult primary with the neck metastasis. So these are some of the solid swellings. I think all of you would have seen classical von Reckling acid disease. Such patients with the K-Phyllia spots all over, they are vulnerable for lesions. You can see this lady here. See that fibroepithelial tags are present, small nodule-like thing here. And this is a large neural tumor. You know, posterior triangle is a rich site for, lot of nerve tissue there. So it's not uncommon to find posterior triangle, which is a common site for a nerve tumor. Whenever you are given a swelling like this, look at that swelling, it was 5 years duration. And this man here, it was also 5 years duration, but 3 months rapidly growing. So you have a benign tumor here. This is a neurofibroma, and this is a neurofibrosarcoma. Again, another case of a neural tumor here. And these are the ones which are arising from the nerve tissue itself. Neurilemomas are arising from the Schwann sheath. They are more of a softer consistency than a neurofibroma, which is got a more firm in consistency. So tingling and numbness in the distribution of the nerve typically goes in well for a nerve sheath tumor. So always, as I mentioned yesterday, look at this swelling here. It's a large swelling. You can see prominent veins there. This is because the large swelling is compressing on the vein there, causing the prominent veins. Don't confuse veins over the swelling to veins proximal to the swelling or veins distal to the swelling. Veins over the swelling means swelling is vascular. Classical examples of a sarcoma, synovial sarcoma, you find a lot of dilated veins. You know, in the breast, you have got one more disease called as Phillode's tumor. Lots of veins are over the swelling. Remember this patient here, these are not over the swelling. This is all due to compression. That means the swelling per se is not vascular. So these are the few points which will help you in the diagnosis of a neural tumor. Yeah, I just now mentioned to you, look at that sarcoma here. There's a swelling there, posterior triangle. large amount of dilated veins are present distally. This is due to the compression on the subclavian vein, resulting in some amount of edema on dilated veins here. Look at on this side, you can see redness. Not sure whether how much you are able to appreciate the redness here. So, how will you make a diagnosis of a sarcoma? Any rapidly growing swelling? Variable consistency. To start with, for example, neural tumors, neurofibroma is firm. As it grows so rapidly, few areas will undergo tumor necrosis and become soft. So, variable consistency. Few areas may become hard. So, liposarcoma, neurofibrosarcoma are few examples. Dilated veins, redness, restricted mobility, variable consistency, rapid growth, they all help in the diagnosis of a neural tumors, right? Okay. So we have mentioned about, we are coming to the solid swellings in the posterior triangle, and we have mentioned about already about tuberculosis, and now comes a lymphoma. I think all of you know Hodgkin's lymphoma. Hodgkin's typically starts in the posterior triangle, typically described as a bunch of grapes, multiple nodes. You can have a massive enlargement here. They are not matted, unlike tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, with 1 or 2 months, you will have a caseation and a cold abscess formation sinus. That will not happen. For example, this patient has got the swelling of 6 months duration. So you can see how big is the swelling there. Carefully you watch. There is also swelling on the other side. And this is typical of a Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now you look at this patient. He has got not only swelling in the posterior triangle here, but also in the submandibular triangle, submental, submandibular, preauricular, postauricular, everywhere. This is the classical outer chain, which is classical of a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Remember to examine the oral cavity always in cases of lymphoma. So, typical question which is asked is, why do you say lymphoma? Typically a lymph nodal swelling. Lymph nodal swelling, as I mentioned, is the most common swelling deep to the deep fascia. Generalized lymphadenopathy, more than 2 groups you have got. Posterior triangle nodes, axillary nodes, groin, para-aortic. So in a case of a lymph nodal swelling, don't forget to examine for axilla, groin, and abdomen for liver, spleen, and of course para-aortic nodes, etc. Skeletal system examination also should be done. So depends upon the finding. Lymphoma can be as a short case also, can be given as a long case. So if the more findings, obviously it will go to a long case. Lesser findings, it will go to a short case. I hope it's clear. Yes. So nature of the nodes. What do you get in tuberculosis? They are multiple, firm, matted, mobile. 3 M's, easy to remember for tuberculosis. Multiple, matted, mobile. Now what about for lymphoma? They are of a rubbery consistency, rather more of a firm. They are multiple, mobile, but no matting. Always remember when an unusual site of a nodes are present. Epitrochlear, suboccipital, popliteal, always think of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I already mentioned to you, horizontal group, preauricular, postauricular, suboccipital, epitrochlear. So these are all adds in the diagnosis of a lymphoma. I will come to the metastatic deposits now. I'll just give 1 or 2 slides of introduction, and then I'm asking one of you to please come forward so that you will be able to present the case, so that this is the most common short case I mentioned to you, and every hospital will have definitely this neck nodes as a short case. As you know, 80% of the neck nodes are metastasis. Majority of the malignant neoplasms in the neck are epithelial in origin. That means to say that their report comes as squamous cell carcinoma. Why I say this? Because commonly they ask you this question. Epithelial, it can be non-epithelial, such as malignant melanoma, or it can be adenocarcinoma sometimes. So it's mandatory to get a tissue diagnosis. Notes in the upper level. Upper level means level 1 and 2. We'll come to that. Mainly it goes to the above, oral cavity, tongue, tonsil, oropharynx, etc. Level 3 and 4 means down. They are usually level 3 and 4. Thyroid, tongue, sometimes the nasopharynx also. Notes in the supraclavicular region, I think all of you know. Mainly we talk about the gut here, genitourinary, lungs, nasopharynx also can go there, breast. And papillary carcinoma, I think you know. In addition to, it can also have 3, 4, 5, 6. So every postgraduate should have very, very thorough knowledge about when the question is asked, what are the organs drained to level 1 and 2? At least three sites you should be able to tell without any problem. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And obviously, this is the time they will definitely ask you Memorial Sloan Kettering classification, where they evolved a system of classification of various lymph nodes based on their location of 1, 2, etc. All standard books have given this. Let me not waste much time on this issue. So everybody should know basically 1 is the submental one, earlier nomenclature. Then you have got the 2, 3, 4. Earlier we used to call jugular lymphadenopathy. 2, 3, 4 are nothing but they are all along the length of that jugular vein, internal jugular vein. So this is the area which you should carefully examine. And 5 is obviously posterior triangle. Look at that 2A and 2B also there, little carefully. So I advise postgraduates, when you have a case of metastasis in the neck, don't use the word jugulodigastric, jugulomoid, etc. Try to use the word levels only, because based on which the management is. So here again written here 3, 4, 5. So in relation to the hyoid bone, 2 cricothyroid membrane is 3. Then you have the 4 there up to the clavicle. 5 is, I have mentioned to you, posterior triangle. And again there they have classified as A and B. And level 6 is the anterior compartment. So all the books are given. I request you to go through it carefully. All the 6 zones of lymph node classification. I think the same picture is here. So should not be any problem here. 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3, 4, 5. So same picture. And also I advise you to practice simple diagrams. If they ask you the neck dissection, as a major in theory, different types of neck dissections, these are the simple diagrams which will fetch you more marks. An examiner also gets impressed by your pictures. So these are some of the areas of metastasis. So now I will skip this slide and go to other important things before we come to a case discussion on the neck metastasis. So I'll come to the neck metastasis as I told you at the end. Now a posterior triangle, we mentioned about cystic swelling is over, solid swelling is over. In the solid, neural tumors come first, then comes the lymph nodes. In the lymph nodes, tuberculosis, lymphoma, and metastasis. Then comes the boning. This is the area where we add one bony swelling to the classification, so that postgraduates are reminded, when you look in the posterior triangle, please search, look for an expanded bony end of a cervical rib. So cervical rib, as a major question you can get as a part of thoracic outlet syndrome. So please look carefully, and Adson test is the one which you normally do. And this is the moral here. Whenever you have upper limb ischemia short case given to you, patient may not have a big supraclavicular swelling, But remember to examine the supraclavicular region for a lump. Lump is nothing but the bony end, or a palpable thrill, or a bruit. So posterior triangle is one of the sides of a additional rib, that is a cervical rib. Small picture to you. You can see here, typical short case. You can make up your mind now. How will you present this as ischemia? What are the signs of ischemia you find here? Is there any neurological illness? Is there a muscle wasting? Especially CAT1 ulnar nerve paralysis. Adson's test has been demonstrated here. And at operation, you know, this is the dilated segment of the subclavian artery containing a thrombus. Subclavian artery is hooked here for a incision of the artery, and of course removal of the thrombus and the repair. So this is the classical operation you do, has been summarized here in the yellow box. Before that, look at that X-ray showing a cervical rib here. Can you see that? Today you do combine it with the Doppler and the Duplex to find out the dilatation of the subclavian artery. This is a small picture of a cervical rib. This is a rib actually in surgery, my case only. And these are the ribs which comes as broken. Partly it was fibrous. Just remember those 5 R's as a checklist for you. When you have a cervical rib, again the treatment of cervical rib is extraperiosteal excision of the cervical rib. That means remove the cervical rib, repair the subclavian artery, restore the circulation, reduce the vasospasm, and recognize other causes. Posterior triangle is also a case for a pulsatile swellings with the lots of vascular malformation. Vascular malformation, when I say arteriovenous malformation. Remember, if this is a short case for you, you know how I am going to present this. Look at that. In fact, it was a very, very pulsatile swelling. Patient was afraid of surgery. He has been advised surgery 15 years back. Obviously, some amount of risk was this about 15 years back. So he did not go to, because it was not causing pain. It became so big. It was having bruit, thrill, etc. Classical case of arteriovenous malformation, and embolization was done here. And later, he underwent an excision in a phased manner. So posterior triangle is also a site for a vascular malformation as a part of pulsatile swelling. So when you get a case of a swelling in the posterior triangle, cystic, solid, bony, and pulsatile swelling. This is how you classify swellings in the posterior triangle. Is it okay? Yes. So that's how you make a diagnosis of a classical AV malformation or a arteriovenous fistula. The sign important here is the compressibility, thrill, and the murmur. So this is a small moral for postgraduates. Even later, whenever you have a pulsatile swelling, always look for temperature and tenderness, auscultate and aspirate before you excise, because what you are doing may be a partially ruptured aneurysm or a malformation. Don't get into the trouble. So look for temperature and tenderness, auscultate and aspirate. Just remember Tata. So that you will be careful whenever you excise a vascular or a pulsatile swelling, right? Yes. Now, Dr. Bhatta Radhakrishna, I would like to stop at this juncture. If
Yes,
anyone has doubts up to now, whatever is they have a doubts, few minutes I can give for pulsatile swellings or malformation or the cervical rib, etc. If anyone has doubts.
anyone has, please raise your hand so that we can do in a very systematic manner. And anybody who wants to ask a question,
Up to now, whatever we have discussed.
yes. Anyone? Yeah, BN, whoever that is, BN. Please ask your question. Hello?
Yes.
Sir, I would like to know what is the significance of seeing the temperature in a pulsatile swelling, sir?
Seeing the
Temperature.
Oh, it's a good question, because you imagine you have got a carotid artery which is pushed by a lymph node. Okay, so you'll find pulsation. But when you examine, there's no local raise of temperature. That means to say that mostly this is not a vascular swelling, but it could be something is pushing it up. I hope it's clear. Another example, you have a swelling which is sarcoma. Sarcomas can have pulsations. So when you have a pulsation over the swelling, having local raise of temperature, that means it is very, very vascular swelling. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other
Sir,
question?
hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sir. The Werkhouse lymph node is which level lymph node? Level 4 or level 5?
Which one you are talking about?
The Werkhouse lymph node. The
Oh, so-
trousers.
Virtuous, no.
Supraclavicular
Virtual
lymph
lymph
nodes. Supraclavicular lymph nodes, as I understand, it is level 5. I may be subjected
Okay.
to correction. But
Okay.
see again here, this classification came later. Supraclavicular region is further divided into 3 categories actually. More medial one, which is beneath the scalene muscle, that means in between the 2 heads of the sternomastoid. It's called as the scalene node. It is the node of a bronchogenic carcinoma. It is somewhere in the 4 area only. So if you go further laterally, you get from carcinoma of the stomach, etc. Is it clear? This is what I understand, right? Yes.
So it will be level 5 if it is asked in
Yes.
exam, right?
Yes. Lateral nodes.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Priyanka? Dr. Priyanka, your question?
Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, yes.
100%. Yes.
Sir, I wanted to know if there is like Werkhouse nodes, we call if there is a, lymph nodes that are enlarged in the left supraclavicular region.
Correct.
So if they are present in the right side, what will be the like drainage system of the
Right
that's
lymphatic duct. Right lymphatic duct present in the right upper limb.
okay?
No, you have to examine thoroughly the right upper limb here. So
Yes, sir.
occasionally, very rarely, we have a big right lymphatic duct joining the subclavian vein in the area. And you examine for the melanoma, especially in the upper limb. Okay, melanoma.
Okay,
Please remember melanoma. And don't forget carcinoma breast. Obviously, female patient. Okay. Right.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank
Hello.
you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, Dr.
Hello.
Raksha? Dr.
Yes.
Raksha?
Sir, how
Sir,
will we
in-
differentiate
Your
the
your turn is over, sir. Let Raksha ask the question. Yeah.
Sir,
Anyone?
in AJCC 8th edition, actually, there's a statement saying, with the exception of Werkhouse node, which is located in level 4, sir. This is the only source of information which I got. So,
Fine. That's why I said supraclavicular is further divided. As I mentioned, medial is that whatever that level 4 I mentioned about that scalene node. So that's why I said I'm subjected to correction. No issues. Yes. Yes, please.
Any other questions, please? Yeah, Sudeep Dey, what is your question?
Yes.
No, actually, the Sudeep Dey wants to know how many lymph nodes are present in the Werkhouse gland. How many lymph nodes?
I don't know the number. I know anybody can. I really don't know. One of the common question which is also asked is that yes, anybody can tell the number. Is that why do you get a supraclavicular node enlargement? After all, it is the left that thoracic duct is joining the subclavian vein. So why should a node get enlarged outside? The answer given to that was some of them they get blocked and the cells extravasate, resulting in the nodal enlargement. When the nodes extravasate the cells, there can be many, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got at least a case having 4 to 5 significant supraclavicular node in a carcinoma stomach. I'm not talking about rest of the things. So I do not know the exact number, but this is the explanation given. What is the cause of enlargement of the left supraclavicular node? Right? One of the explanations. Yes.
So there's one gentleman, Rohan, wants to know, can there be fixed nodes in lymphoma?
Yeah, obviously. See, as I said, there's nothing like cannot happen in a medical thing. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma nodes are more aggressive. They are more anaplastic variety. Sometimes they get fixed. Even in the Hodgkin's, Fixed means only when the capsule is involved. It is more common in tuberculosis. They get, you say, periodontitis and matting. Secondaries, the capsule get infiltrated. Lymphoma, it doesn't happen unless they are very anaplastic, undifferentiated. Yes.
Yes, Sonu? What is the question? Sonu? Professor Srinivasan is there from Coimbatore. Any comments you want to make, sir? Professor Srinivasan?
Sir, namaskara, Srinivasan, sir.
He wanted to say hello to you, sir, for a while.
Hello, sir. Srinivasan, sir, my regards. So can we ask now one volunteer to student, please come forward. This is a classical case of you can see a swelling there. Can you see a large swelling?
Yes,
We
sir.
have got, I think, about 20 minutes.
No, you take your time, sir. We have no problem today.
No. We have a swelling here. I'll give a quick 60-year man has come with the neck swelling of 3 months duration, rapidly growing, 5 kg weight loss, loss of appetite. And he also complains of some pain which is going near the earache. He has got earache. So this is the patient. So may I ask someone to ask me questions related to the case, so-called the negative points or whatever in the history, so that we can proceed, please.
Yes, somebody
The
can.
history of dysphagia and history of ear pain.
Madam, please identify yourself.
Sir, yes, sir.
I can't hear you. Yeah, please.
History of dysphagia, sir. As
No
well
history,
as
no. You can go on presenting. Okay, no history of dysphagia, no history of dyspnea. Anything else you want to ask?
So history of voice change?
No voice change.
Any
History of previous radiation.
History of
Previous radiation.
previous irradiation, no.
History of fever and night sweats, sir.
Why do you irradiate? The person who asked that question.
To rule out any recurrence of malignancy of any other head and neck malignancy.
As I told you one thing, those are the things if it is there, they will tell. Okay, don't have to ask that the previous history of irradiation in this patient. No history of dysphagia, very good. No history of dyspnea, very good. No history of change in the voice, very good. Anything else?
History of tobacco chewing.
Tobacco chewing is usually present in all these patients. You know, they are, sir, namaskara, sir, Srinivasan, sir. Aerodigestive tract, they usually have a field cancerization also. So tobacco chewing, smoking will be usually present. Anything else? Negative point.
History of difficulty in mastication.
Difficulty in mastication is not there. Chewing is not there. Nothing is there. See,
History
why
of
I'm
any
asking
oral
this because
ulcers.
very often this type of patients, you people are ready with some question. Whatever you ask, they will tell no. So that is why they are called as occult primary. Okay. What else?
Sir, history of fever and night sweats.
So you want to rule out tuberculosis? It is not there, madam. I already told you it's a next metastasis. What about cough with expectation?
Optitis or any difficulty in hearing.
Cough with expectation. Because you want to rule out any bronchus also, it's not there. Yes, anything else?
Cough for any abdominal distension, anything to suggest abdominal malignancy?
Oh God, madam, look at that swelling. Which level you think? That's why I put this. Which are the notes? We just heard you. Level 2 and 3, probably. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
If
History
level
of drooling of saliva.
Yeah, level 2 and 3, which abdominal malignancy will go there? So forget about that. Okay. Don't consider abdomen at all.
Nasal congestion.
Epistaxis is a good question. He did not have epistaxis. Why do you ask that question?
Nasopharyngeal
Nasopharyngeal
carcinoma.
Very good. I will give marks if you suspect that kind of a thing in this patient. Understand? So epistaxis
Sir, ear
is
pain.
not there. I gave a clue that telling that some ear pain he has got. So nasopharynx is the one which you should try to consider also. Is it
yeah.
clear?
What
Any
I know
other
aphasia?
question? Any other question?
What I know
The history of
aphasia?
off on having put aspiration to rule out aspiration. Vocal cord palsy.
Vocal cord paralysis means larynx, aspiration, upper esophagus, cricopharynx, mid
और कुछ कपड़े हैं
esophagus.
उसमें
They
देख
have
लेना
a
एक दो
tendency to more
दो ही तो लेके जा रही है एक दो और
even
देख
though
ले
it is less like. I just want to give you this slide now. So whenever you are given a case like this, where you are stuck, whatever you ask, they will tell, no, nothing. No dyspnea, no hoarseness of the voice, nothing. These are the classical occult primary sites. I think no excuse if you do not know and tell this in the examination. Of course, the breast is included, obviously, for a female patient. Very often, they may come with the neck node without a breast lump. Only on examination, you may find a breast lump. Obviously, it's a supraclavicular node. It is also considered as a part of the occult primary, but not very seriously obviously in this type of situation. Now look at that posture, 1/3 tongue, vallecula, post-cricoid, Rosenmuller, upper esophagus, larynx, bronchus, nasopharynx, sinuses, thyroid. Yesterday I mentioned to you, thyroid is also one of the sites of occult primary sites with neck nodes of 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 also. So here it is 3, 4, 5. And the nodes can be soft, can be firm, or can be hard also. Anyone knows what is Trotter's triad? Yes? I thought postgraduates know this by heart. Yes?
Seen in nasopharyngeal carcinoma.
Correct. What are 3 things?
Conductive deafness.
Yes, conductive deafness.
Neuralgia of ipsilateral temporal.
Fifth nerve distribution pain there, and homolateral immobility of the palate. Okay, so this is what you get in this patient. Okay, now keeping this in mind, you are going to ask that question. So I understood now. You asked dysphagia, you are hoarseness of the voice, difficulty in swallowing, aspiration. Nothing is there very often. Okay, right. So you have done inspection wise. You are going to explain there. I hope the candidate who is supposed to present. Can you quickly tell me the inspection? One of you please tell the inspection.
A single swelling is seen in the upper aspect left side of the neck, measuring around 4 into 5 centimeters.
Wrong answer. 1 minute. 4 into 5 does not mean anything to me. Horizontally measuring about and vertically measuring about. So as to give a correct idea about how much is the extent. Is it clear? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Vertically measuring about 4 centimeters and horizontally about 5 to 6 centimeters.
Okay. Yes.
Surface appears smooth and surrounding area is normal.
Surface, borders. Next comes borders.
Borders are well defined.
Skin over the swelling.
Skin over the swelling is normal and surrounding areas appear normal.
Again, as a postgraduate, we will give more marks. If you tell skin over the swelling is normal, no puckering is seen. Okay? That
yes, sir.
The secondary changes. I don't want you to tell no sinuses. They have more of tuberculosis. Okay? Surrounding area, anything is seen? Surrounding area? As I told you, can you see some veins there?
Prominent veins are seen.
As I already mentioned to you, a swelling can have veins over the swelling, proximal and distal also. All right. Now, on palpation, the things which you are supposed to look after, everything here, the most important thing you get for all the neck metastases is they are usually very hard in consistency. I think most of the malignancies are hard. Skin changes are all coming under that called as secondary changes. Puckering, ulceration, fungation, bleeding. If it is present, you say no puckering, ulceration, stop. Only after ulceration, fungation, bleeding happens. Then comes a restricted mobility. Yes, it was having restricted mobility, plain. This is a place where you people get stuck. Very large swelling. You do a sternomastoid contraction test, hardly you can make out anything. So don't bother. Plain becomes important when it is confined still within the deep fascia for a reasonably sized swelling. This is such a large swelling. It may, some kind of a signs might have been altered. Don't bother. Surrounding area I mentioned to you. Look for other group of nodes. Now I would like to ask you now, the person who is presenting, what other examination you do in this patient now?
So
Apart
oral
from this mask.
cavity.
Sorry?
Oral cavity examination.
Oral cavity. Yes.
Then cranial nerve examination.
Which cranial nerve?
Spinal accessory.
Anything else?
9, 10, 11. 5th and
Anything-
10.
Anything else?
7th.
9.
7. Who said 7? Not 7. Anything else?
9,
Yes.
10, 11.
Oh, we'll come to that. Nerve examination is mandatory. Yes. Don't forget sympathetic system. Remember that Horner syndrome other day we saw. Our books have given no doubt the hypoglossal nerve, but you are duty to see that hypoglossal nerve examined properly. Sympathetic system has to be examined. And don't forget thyroid. I know this may not be in this patient. You can have a male patient with the neck nodes with a solitary nodule in the thyroid. Always don't forget salivary glands. A very large swelling, you may think it's as close. In this patient, there is a gap actually. You can see here, but still, this is the area. Okay. You can have a lower polar parotid tumor here. This is you can have a lower pole parotid here with a node, not exactly like this, but somewhere here. So examine for salivary glands. Again here, there's a classical gap between mandible and the swelling. So it is unlikely to be submandibular salivary gland. But remember to examine the salivary glands also in this patient. Oral cavity is a word which is very vague and very broad. So all of you should know, I will examine, you say I will examine buccal mucosa, floor of the mouth, and tongue and tonsil. So I think tongue is examined not under inspection by putting a torch. Tongue should be examined. Obviously, you know how to examine the tongue properly. Putting your fingers between the cheek here and the mandible, and put your finger inside for palpation. Tongue, induration of the tongue is made under palpation, not by inspection. Some of the tongue malignancies can be missed if you do only inspection. And behind, of course, up to the tonsils, you may be able to see. Don't forget retromolar trigone, right? So some of the blind areas, including retromolar trigone, you should examine to give a diagnosis, right? Okay. Yes. The candidate who has presented, your diagnosis is metastasis. Tell me why it is lymph nodal mass.
So most common swelling in the neck is a lymph node. So considering it, I take it as a lymph node.
No. 1 minute. Suppose otherwise, what are the points 3 or 4 you should know? If it is to be a smaller one. Quickly, I will come to one more case so that in that case, if you say, why do you say, look at this patient here. This is also metastasis. Why do you say it's a lymph node? It will give the answer. Number 1, most common swelling in the neck. Number 2,
consistency and...
No. Don't mix up. Anatomical diagnosis, pathological diagnosis. Anatomically, why do you say thyroid? Different. Pathologically, why do you say multinodular goiter? Different. Anatomically, you said most common swelling in the neck, number 1. What is the shape here now? The bean shape is lost into round or
round shape.
Number 3, if you contract the muscles in this patient, it becomes less prominent, and sometimes you'll find multiple nodes. So lymph node swellings are multiple. So this is how you make a diagnosis of whenever you are asked, why do you say nodes? Now tell me, why do you say it is metastasis?
Hard and fixed.
Anything else? Yes, correct. Hard and fixed. Yes. Anything else? See, madam, in the examination, you need to have 4 or 5 points so that even one you may forget. Every case need not have hardness. Surface is irregular. Surface can be irregular. Borders are irregular. Consistency, mobility, fixity. And then, of course, if the patient has got hoarseness of the voice, etc., it will help you. So what is the metastasis with the clinically unidentified primary means, and what is occult primary? Yes?
Occult primary is after the investigations which are done, sir. While clinically unidentified primary is by the examination.
So in the examination, you may find 3 types of cases for you. one may have a nodal mass, and when you start examining with your finger, you may find a growth. Second is, you have done the oral cavity examination clinically unidentified, but later when you do a pan endoscopy, you found a lesion in the post-cricoid region. The occult primary means, in spite of everything, it is negative. Let us say this is occult primary. How do you proceed with the investigation now? Yes, please answer.
Tumor markers.
Candidate who is presenting.
Sir, after pan
Blind
endoscopy,
biopsy.
CCT of the head.
So,
Examination
Blind
under
biopsies.
anesthesia.
Please, one at a time, please.
I agree fully. Lots of things you have mentioned. Examination and anesthesia is considered. After that also, let us say it is negative. This is how we are talking about it now. So there is a view to consider CT PET scan in all patients with the all occult primary with the nodal mass. Remember, PET scan is not routinely done when you are able to get a, say, carcinoma buccal mucosa with the node. Nobody will do the PET scan at the initial stage. In a patient who has got occult primary, there is a role to both combine CT as well as the PET scan to establish, not only to find out the diagnosis, but also to know where all it is spread. It may be one side, it may be in some other side. Is it clear? Because we is not able to pick up with the CT scan, not able to pick up with the X-ray. So CT PET is the investigation of choice here. And no doubt you will do an FNAC and pan endoscopy. One commonly asked question is this: where do you take a blind biopsy from? Answer is here: posterior wall of the both of Rosenmuller and pyriform fossa. MRI is not routinely indicated if you suspect a lesion in the tongue or a tonsil and level 2, especially because there is chance of a nasopharynx going to the base of the skull. And remember this, bilateral tonsillectomy is also added as a part of the investigatory workup of these patients, and in all patients you assess performance status. If anyone has any questions at this stage for investigation, please ask now.
Sir, do we still do bilateral tonsillectomy? Because recent guidelines say bilateral tonsillectomy is not advised.
Not advised. Okay. Again, as I said, oncological things, they needs a lot of maybe guidelines and changes. I mean, again, as I mentioned, subjected to correction, but some of the recommendations mentioned about bilateral tonsillectomy, maybe recently it is not done. Maybe we can please check into this. Yes. Any doubts? Any other questions? Yes. How do you manage now that patient?
Modified radical neck dissection.
You have seen that size, na? What is the size you think that case?
5x7, sir.
So very large swelling. Obviously, the recommendations are modified radical is for N1 surgery. With extracapsular surgery, you do radiotherapy. And this is obviously a large disease. You do a modified radical neck dissection followed by chemoradiotherapy. This is very important. And drug of choice is cisplatin for most of the head neck malignancies here. And how many of you think that these patients will say the primary will appear, let us say at the end of 1 year? At the end of 1 year, let us say how many patients you say primary may appear? Yes?
5 to 10%.
It is 5 to 10%. And how many may get completely cured also without primary at all? No appearance of primary.
80%.
Go 80. I think it's a too large a percentage. So about 30%, I think will. So they get completely cured, where they say that primary will not appear also. And this is the story about the occult neck metastasis from a occult primary. So common questions which is case is about the swelling. You should know how to describe the swelling. You should know the occult primary sites. You should know the investigation, palpation finding. You should know the investigations which have been mentioned here. And we have to check about this bilateral tonsillectomy, and loco-regional examination you should do, and they can present in different swellings, as I mentioned somewhere here. Yeah, you can have a case like this here. See here, with only one node, hard node here. Is upper neck. Upper neck. Don't go on telling about bronchogenic carcinoma stomach, etc. here. Look at that swelling. He had an esopharynx actually. This is the same fellow. It's a very large posterior. You can see here this sternomastoid. It was level 2, 3, large one. It was the post-cricoid region. And this is the patient we discussed yesterday with the pseudotosis there. So this is the patient who was having that so-called the platysma sign. Okay. So with this, I think I'll conclude my talk with the few things. And a last one quiz for you. Okay, before we go to the quiz, can you ask me any questions? If I know, I will answer, obviously, related to today's swellings, hemangioma, lymphangioma. These are all short cases for you. Aneurysm, cervical rib. I have not given you all the tests of cervical rib. You please refer the book. Depends upon the time. They will ask you the details about the cases, about the test. Yes.
Sir, efficacy of sclerotherapy in hemangiomas?
I already mentioned to you, all depends upon the vascularity, low flow status, low flow. They are classified in 3 categories actually. Low flows are the one which do not really require any treatment. Some people give sclerotherapy and excise it. Medium flow and high flows, better embolization you do, therapeutic embolization. And once you regress it, then probably you excise it. Lymphangioma, sclerotherapy is not recommended.
Hello, sir.
Sorry?
Sir, why do we do bilateral tonsillectomy in occult primary case, sir?
This is again, as I mentioned to you, tonsil is one of the sites of also malignancy. And in addition to that, you get tonsil has got squamous cell carcinoma, lymphoepithelioma, adenocarcinoma, all can come from the tonsil. Bilateral tonsillectomy is recommended as a part of it.
Hello, sir. In occult primary, we can do the FNAC of thyroid, sir.
Sorry?
FNAC of thyroid, sir.
No. If you do ultrasound, if the thyroid is not enlarged, it's not required. If thyroid lobe is a nodule is palpable, always remember today ultrasound guided FNAC. Okay. Routine FNAC is not recommended.
Yes, sir.
I have not mentioned ultrasound because the discussion was more on the occult primary sites of the nasopharyngeal and etc. So we went in for a CT scan and a PET scan, and then MRI we talked like that.
Sir,
this is one interesting case of a 40-year lady presented to the hospital with a swelling in the posterior triangle somewhere here. You can see, I'm not sure how good is the picture there, about 2-3 centimeters. Center area was little soft. Almost it was like a lymph node, I thought. Little bit of pressure you put here, some soft area. Above, there is some structure which was palpable like a cord. You know, this is cord, almost like a cord here. And this is a swelling. And it was, she had no fever. Tuberculosis, papillary carcinoma thyroid, cystic secondary, nothing was there. So any guess for this case? Any guess? Anyone?
So vascular
So was it
malformation.
pulsatile?
No localized temperature, no tenderness. It was absolutely no pain at all. Some small swelling there. Recent
Schwannoma, sir. Schwannoma.
Schwannoma, no sir, unlikely. I said a little bit of round. You know, there's some clue. Clue is this.
So was it pulsatile?
No pulsation. Clue is this.
The branchial sinus with the fistula. So branchial sinus with the fistula.
Sorry?
Branchial sinus with the fistula.
Anyway, good to think of anomalies. Good. In the examination, a case like this, we ask you branchial arch, branchial sinuses, malformation, hamartoma. So, somebody was pointing out that cord, like when I said thrombophlebitis, there's one swelling there. Somebody improved that cord-like thing and gave a diagnosis, which can match both. swelling as well as this structure.
So thrombosis of IJV.
It should also explain that other swelling also, na? Round one. If I give you one more, sorry.
Carotid body tumor.
Sir, carotid body tumor you get in the anterior triangle in the carotid region. Okay, this sternomastoid. This is the tali, you know, the karimani. So this is the posterior triangle. Okay, interestingly, yes.
The hyperplasia of sternocleidomastoid.
Sternocleidomastoid tumor is basically not a acquired one. You know, it's a fibrosis resulting in usually you get in younger, not here.
Maybe thrombosis of external jugular vein.
Thrombosis external jugular vein as a good way of thinking. But I already told you there is something like this.
So maybe hematoma, organized hematoma.
This is organized hematoma, correct? This is one cord-like thing was palpable, and yes, it was difficult clinical to see unless we suspected it was a case of a leprosy. It was a case of a leprosy. It was one nerve fiber here got thickened, and this was a cold abscess. When I say cold abscess, don't confuse for tuberculosis. Abscess from a nerve from a leprosy is also nerve abscess. It's also a cold in nature. No local resort temperature and no tenderness and no fever. So this is a case of a leprosy. So biopsy put as this is some of the cutaneous nerve there, right? Okay. Anything else? Yes, sir. Can I stop, sir?
Well, Dr. Srinivasan is here. Dr. Srinivasan, you want to say hello?
Yes.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Sir,
are you able to hear me? Namaskaram. How are you, sir?
I am okay.
How are you, sir?
Nice to see you, sir. You can also add, sir, please.
No, sir. No, sir. We have been very clear, crisp, and beautiful. The voice is magnanimous. Yes, sir.
You, sir.
See you tired, sir. We'll see you in the next discussion, sir. Hope to see you somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radhakrishnan. Thank you, Radhakrishnan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
This is a wonderful class. I should say. I'm learning lots about it.
I'm not sure you are working, but it's not for you anyway.
And there are more than 200 students been watching, sir. And thank you so much for this class. And then if there are no more questions, we will close the session and we'll see you again. So,
thank you, Radhakrishnan. Thank you for your wonderful arrangements.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.